Big news out of GW's biggest program. Men's basketball head coach Michael Lonergan fired.
We'll discuss that and give you our first updates from this season of GW Varsity Sports. You're watching Unstoppable.
From the School of Media and Public Affairs at the George Washington University, you're watching Unstoppable with Casey Decker and Sean Grant.
Mike Lonergan is no longer the coach of GW men's basketball. On September 17th, University Provost Forrest Maltzman announced Lonergan's removal in an email sent through the InfoMail system. In the email, Maltzman said an investigation had revealed that Lonergan, quote, engaged in conduct inconsistent with the university's values. This announcement came 2 months after the Washington Post published a story about Lonergan's, quote, verbal and emotional abuse of his players.
Now, let's break this down and look at the timeline of events. March 31st, GW wins the NIT tournament. Led by Lonergan, men's basketball takes their first ever postseason championship. By the way, we here interviewed Lonergan shortly after that win on April 8th. We asked him about the season and his plans for the future. At the time, there was talk of Lonergan being recruited by bigger schools, but he told us GW is where he wanted to stay the rest of his career. July 21st, the Washington Post publishes an article in which several unnamed former players accuse Lonergan of verbal abuse and other inappropriate conduct. They said Lonergan had created a toxic environment that caused players to transfer away from GW, that he was emotionally abusive, and that Lonergan had used sexually charged insults against his players and athletic director Patrick Nero. In the days after the article was released, several players jumped to Lonergan's defense and the school launched an investigation. In late August, the team traveled to Japan for an exhibition tournament. Lonergan was of course with the team, and for a while it didn't seem the article would have any real immediate impact. Then, on September 16th, USA Today reports that Lonergan had been fired. On September 18th, Lonergan responded through lawyers. In a statement, the lawyers said he had been denied due process and that he will, quote, seek appropriate relief for breach of contract and wrongful termination.
Well, Casey, what was really interesting for me about this process, so far, when you try and sort through some of the unanswered questions, is they haven't announced an interim coach yet. I thought maybe the quickest response would have been to name Haj Turner, the assistant coach, as the interim head coach, but the university just hasn't done that yet. So I don't know what that really indicates, so far for the team.
Well, certainly I think before they promote one of their assistant coaches, they're going to want to make sure that none of them were complicit in creating this toxic environment that they found in the investigation. So they're going to want to make sure that if they do promote someone else, that they don't just continue the environment that was there before. Obviously, it's pretty close to the season, so they're going to need to act quickly. And I think if they find that the assistant coaches weren't involved in this creation of this environment, then promoting one of them would be the best course of action.
Well, and I've heard a couple reports that they've been looking at several other coaches who had coached under Lonergan previously, maybe were familiar with the program, but again, there's still lots of unanswered questions that we need to be answered before we get closer to the start of the season. Hopefully that gets figured out sooner rather than later. But we're going to go to a short commercial break now. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
History isn't only what's happened. History is also what's happening. At the George Washington University, we're making history every day.
We pass legislation that shapes our lives, our culture, and our future.
We live the mantra, champions in the classroom, in the community, and in competition.
Which instills in us a determination to reach new heights.
We break new ground in the treatment of patients and the study of disease.
And tackle the most important challenges in our society.
We form new relationships and grow as entrepreneurs.
And we imagine new ways to connect on a global scale.
As alumni, we make history by supporting students.
We create scholarships that make an exceptional education attainable.
We provide tools and facilities that allow new ideas to come alive.
And we enhance GW's academics by attracting world-renowned faculty.
And delivering career-launching opportunities.
I'm making history.
I'm making history.
I'm making history.
The George Washington University is making a difference. The George Washington University is making history. Join us. Join us.
We're back, and moving now to varsity sports updates. GW volleyball season is well underway. The team is 6-7 so far on the year, and tomorrow will enter A10 conference play, starting off with Dayton. To take a deeper look, we'll go to our correspondent, Rudy Venkatesan.
We're here inside the Smith Center checking in with the GW women's volleyball team. We're going to follow them around a couple of practices and games and hoping to see what a day in the life of a GW volleyball player is really like. The women's volleyball team has definitely exhibited some hard work this past season. I caught up with freshman Skylar Ayatt to get a better understanding of what it's like to transition into this sort of environment and get a glimpse of what it's like to be on this team.
The upperclassmen really have taken us under their wing. They laid out all the guidelines of the team and how things work. So I was here for the summer, and so they basically welcomed us all with open arms. Well, for practice days, we're usually up around 5:50, and we go to CAS to get treatment. We heat or get taped or whatever we need. We go to training table, and then we have practice from 7 to 10, and then we come in here and we lift from 10 to 11. And then most people run to class after that because they have class at 11:10, but then we kind of just hang out until we can come back in and do extra reps. And then on game days, we come in to serve and pass, and we have a team meal, and then we basically just hang out in the locker room and play music and just get ready for the game. Our friendships off the court make us different because you can always catch us walking around campus together, and we're not just here to play on the team, we're here to be friends with each other, and I think that sets us apart from most programs.
The GW women's volleyball team has definitely proven that they have great skill set and teamwork. We'll keep you updated on their accomplishments this season. For Unstoppable, I'm Ruti Venkatesan.
Thanks for that, Rudy. Well, you know, Casey, one of the things when you look at this 6-7 record, they lost their last 3 home games. Now they started off pretty well to start off the season, but then when you lose your first 3 home games, that was at the GW Invitational, that's really gotta set a tone that you have to fix right away, because you gotta win those home games. That's super important for a team, especially heading into conference play.
And it certainly doesn't help that they've only had 3 home games out of the 13 that they've played. They've done a lot of traveling, so it's obviously going to make it a little more difficult to gain that momentum. But hopefully they can come back and start winning some of those home games in conference play and really boost up that morale.
Well, but one of the other things I saw, in those first 13 games that they played was, they were either winning those games, 3 sets to none, 3 sets to 1, or they were losing 3 sets to none, 3 sets to 1. So I think there's definitely some kind of discrepancy in some of the competition that they've played. And obviously that can come from, your non-conference schedule. It's harder to really, gauge, an even level of competition in non-conference play. But I think that's something they need to take a look at and, saying what are the teams that we're playing, and, maybe that should change going into conference play. We should have a different mindset going into conference play.
Well, and even if you look at the set scores, not just necessarily the overall match scores, but the individual sets, the points aren't that close. There's not a lot of sets that are going into 25, 26 points, close sets. There are a lot of sets that end 25-15, 25-19. And so there's clearly, they haven't really faced a lot of teams that are at their level equally.
Right, and I think something that we talked about previously is that they're much better on the defense, on playing defense, than they are offensively. So they're really good up at the net. They have a lot of blocks and stuff like that. But maybe they need to focus on offensively moving the ball around.
Yeah, like you said, they have far more blocks and slightly more digs statistically than their opponents do on average. But they have fewer kills, assists, and aces. So offensively, there's some room to improve.
Yeah, Casey, we will really look for them to continue to improve going into conference play. But, another team that has really had some momentum is women's soccer. The women's team started off the season on fire, winning their first 6 games in a row. One of those 6 wins came against then 17th ranked Arkansas. That win showcased the talent that is present on the women's team, and it proved that they have the ability to run with the top teams in the NCAA. After the first 6 wins, however, the team went on to lose the next 3 games against the likes of Liberty University, 18th ranked Georgetown, and Towson. Despite the losses, though, the team has never let up more than 2 goals in a game, and they have only failed to score in 3 of their first 9 games. Well, what does this really indicate to you, some of this, this play that we've seen from them at the beginning of the season?
Well, obviously, they started off the season great. You can't start off a season better than winning your first 6 games in a row and beating one of the top teams in the nation. Dropping the last 3, that's pretty big. That drops your record from perfect to 6-3. So they're going to need to gain back that momentum from the beginning of the season down the stretch heading into conference play. They absolutely need to do that.
But one of the things I really want to look at is those games against 18th ranked Georgetown and 17th ranked Arkansas. So the game against Arkansas, obviously they won 1-0. So that's great to have a win against a ranked opponent. But then even though they lost to Georgetown, they lost 1-0. So again, it was a very competitive, a very close game. And I'm not exactly sure if they have lots of ranked opponents left on their schedule, but it shows that if they should go into those games, they should have a certain level of confidence because they can obviously run with these teams.
Absolutely. Overall, they're outscoring their opponents 11-7. They have one of the best shot percentages in the conference. And they're just showing that they are a very talented team, and that just need to remember that and kind of just get past those last 3 losses.
Well, and going off of the offense though, Casey, their goalkeeping has also been just fantastic. Miranda Horn, their goalkeeper, has 36 saves as opposed to 5 goals allowed. So that is just incredible. And you look in some of those close games, like the 1-0 win over Arkansas. She is obviously a very key player. That's going to help them continue to win games.
Well, she's an all-conference goalkeeper. She currently leads the entire conference in save percentage. So she's clearly a critical asset. One thing maybe to work on, out of the 7 goals they have allowed this season, 5 of them came in the second half. That might be a sign that maybe their defense is tiring out later in the game. So that might be something they want to work on.
Yeah, definitely. So, while there are still a few things that the team needs to work on and perfect, they have clearly proved their talent and their competitive nature. Unstoppable got a chance to sit down with senior leader Mackenzie Cowley, who was able to offer some insight into the team's performance so far. We'll have that interview for you later in the show.
Looking forward to that, Sean. Now, turning to men's soccer, halfway through the season, the team has 3 wins, 2 losses, and 3 ties. They have yet to lose a match at home and managed to tie one of the best teams in the nation, 0-0, against number 12, Wake Forest.
Well, when you look at that 3-2-3 record, Casey, when I look at that, I see that the defense really needs to step up. So for me, when you have 3 ties like that, obviously you're not going to control when the other team scores over the course of a game, but if you have a lead, your defense really needs to help you hold on to that, and then, hopefully some of those 3 ties translate into 3 wins. That's going to have a much better record of 6-3 as opposed, or 6-2, excuse me, as opposed to 3-2-3.
Well, I don't think it's the defense that needs to step it up. I think they've done a fairly good job. I think the area that they really need to focus on is their offense in extra time. They've had 3 matches go into extra time, and they have yet to score a single goal in extra time. And they really need to make sure that they can come in the clutch and convert in that time, because that's the way to turn those ties into wins. The defense has held up in extra time. They haven't given up a single goal, but the offense hasn't scored at all. So I think that's really an area where they need to look if they're gonna make ties wins.
Well, and speaking about that offense, I think a player who could really help contribute to that improvement is Garrett Hine, one of their leaders on the team. He's scored about 4 or 5 goals so far this season, and he's also got a handful of assists to go along with that. So, well, on the team, there's no one player who's scoring all the goals or just completely dominating. There's a player like Hine who's really helping to distribute the ball around, making sure everyone gets touches, and then hopefully that'll turn into better production on the offense, especially late in the game, like you're saying.
I think one other area, and maybe a leader like Hine could help with this, is discipline. They have 13 yellow cards so far in 8 matches. That's something that's got to change, especially considering their opponents only have 5. Overall, they have 137 fouls compared to their opponents' 88. So that's going to lose them a lot of advantage in just getting the ball towards the net even. And so that's something they're going to need to work on if they're going to really step it up here.
Yeah, well, we'll be right back. Stay tuned for more GW Sports.
Great journalism matters because it's critical to a democracy that the public is informed and engaged and involved. And that happens by having credible information. And so the most important thing, whatever the delivery platform, whatever the technology, whatever the business model, is that the information itself is coming in solid and important ways and is being conveyed in compelling ways because there's so much noise and competition out there. And so that's what I really want our students to be able to do, be brilliant storytellers, keen observers, and compelling communicators.
Welcome back. Jumping right into men's golf, the team has struggled a bit to begin the season. They have only played in 2 invitational tournaments so far, and in those tournaments the team finished 6th out of 16 teams in the Joe Fagan Marshall Invitational and 14th out of 14 teams in the VCU Janey Invitational. Unstoppable's Kelly Prange caught up with sophomore team leader Logan Lowe to get some of his insight into the team.
I'm Kelly Prange with GW Unstoppable, and I'm here at Laurel Hill Golf Club in Lauren, Virginia for the George Washington men's golf practice. GW is coming off 2 very strong tournaments with major contributions from Logan Lowe. So you have 1 year under your belt, and you came off a very strong summer and finishing off 2 strong tournaments so far. What is your mindset going into the rest of your career here at GW and the outlook of the season?
I think our season looks really good as a team. Everyone's playing really well right now. We are obviously looking forward to A10 the most in the spring. I don't know about the rest of the guys, but I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth after I finished last year, so I'm pretty excited to get back there again. As far as my career, it's still early enough that I'm okay with a couple of poor finishes like I kind of had this past weekend. But overall, I think I'm heading in the right direction. I'm a lot better than I was last year. And so I think if I keep progressing the way I am, I'll be able to, reach some of the goals that I've set out for myself and the coach kind of wants me to reach. So overall, I think we're in a pretty good spot with my game and where my career's at.
You can catch GW at their next tournament for the NC State Invitational. Again, this is Kelly Prange for GW Unstoppable. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Kelly. Heading out to cross country now, where the GW team has started off strong. At the Navy Invitational, the men placed 2nd overall out of 5 schools, and the women took 4th out of 6. At that meet, Miranda DiBiasio won the Salty Dog 6K for GW. And on the men's side, in the Navy 8K, Ryan DePinto was the highest finisher for the Colonials. He took 9th place.
Well, we will certainly look for cross country to continue to perform at a high level. Now moving on to water polo, the men's team has performed much better than their 3-3 record would indicate, as those 3 losses came against 13th ranked Brown, 10th ranked UC Davis, and 3rd ranked Cal. In one of their 3 wins, the team managed to beat then 15th ranked Air Force in overtime. So, while they would have certainly liked to have performed better up to this point, they have faced some stiff competition and have really shown the talent on their roster. The team has been led so far by freshman Adikon Destici, who has 4 goals on the season. Considering that he's only a freshman, his ceiling appears to be very high, and we should expect good things from him to come in the future.
That'll wrap up our sports updates. Now, as promised, here's our interview with one of the leaders of GW Women's Soccer, Mackenzie Cowley.
Talking about those 6 straight wins to open up the season, what were some of the team's expectations as the season began?
We definitely knew we had a really strong team this year, and just to start off the season and win 6 in a row, it really just gave us that confidence boost that we needed. And ever since then, I feel like people have known we are better than we have been in the past, and that we actually are scoring goals, we're creating opportunities, and we're just a better team all around, and it really gave us that confidence to know that we can do this and we can win an A10 championship this year.
So what do you think was the biggest contributing factor that led to that success? Was it, you talked a little bit about that confidence, but maybe was there another factor that you thought led to that success?
Yeah, I definitely think the confidence for the coming out and winning 6 was huge, but I also think we just worked a lot more on attacking this year. And we've really learned how to build from the back and create more scoring opportunities. And just based off of that, we've been able to create more chances, score more goals, and I think that has really made us a lot more successful.
So as we said previously, in those first 6 games, you had a goal each and every one of those games. So what do you think led to your personal success at the beginning of the season?
I think I just came in really confident this year. I worked really hard over the summer. I was practicing with a team in New York. I was actually interning in New York too. So I knew that I'm working 5 days a week and I really needed to be in the best shape I could possibly be in. I needed to be playing soccer over the summer as well. So when I came in, I just had my head in the right place. I was really focused on just putting the ball in the net, and then I actually came out in the 6 goals, and be able to put one in was insane in every game. I didn't even expect it, and it was just great because it just showed that the hard work really did pay off.
So now moving into one of those games in particular, the game against Arkansas, what was the team's mindset going into the game?
I think we all knew that this had to be one of our best games because this was probably the best opponent that we've played so far in the season. So everyone was just super focused on doing the simple things. We just knew that they were really, really good. So coming into it, everybody was just really focused, and we just played really simple, and we ended up breaking them down, putting one in the back of the net, and then we just held them at 1-0. And I think it's one of the best games we played as a team just because we knew we had to play up to their standard, and I think we did a really great job.
So what do you think that win means for your team in terms of like national recognition? Obviously they were number 17 in the country, so obviously that has some implications for GW's national recognition.
Yeah, we're definitely hoping to move up in the polls, and I know we got national recognition after that. We were getting votes for the top 25 in the country. So after that, I think it also just really gave our team like another confidence boost of like, we can play with these top 20 teams and we deserve to be in the top 20.
So why don't you walk me through the moment of that shot?
So it was off a cross, and Kate, who's actually my roommate, we always are practicing crossing and finishing, and I usually know where she's going to put the ball. So as soon as I saw that she was about to cross it, I just put myself exactly where I thought I should be, and it happened to just go right to my head, and all I thought to myself was, don't mess this up. And I just made contact with the ball, it went in the net, and it was one of my favorite goals that I've ever scored just because it meant so much against such a great team.
So then moving on from that start though, now, looking into moving into conference play and everything like that, what are some of the expectations for the rest of the season?
We're really hoping to win an A10 championship this year. Last year we went undefeated in season, and then we ended up losing first round in the tournament. And so I just think this year that loss is really what's pushing us through, and we want to be undefeated again, and then we want to get into the tournament and win the whole thing.
So after the hot 6-0 start, you guys did go on to drop a couple games in a row. What do you think needs to be changed or fixed before heading into conference play?
I think something that we really need to work on is playing our best game against every opponent. I think we go into big games and we play our best because we know we have to, and then when we go against lesser teams, we don't come out as strong because we think that it'll be maybe like an easy win. So I think something that we really need to work on is bringing our best game for every opponent, no matter who we're playing.
So who else do you expect to kind of step up and help you carry the team moving forward into conference play?
Definitely Brittany Cooper. She plays up top with me as well, and she's already had 2 goals this season, so I know she'll put a few more in the net. And then our midfielders, Lena Praska, she is really great at controlling the midfield along with Ivana. And then in the back, we have a really solid back line, so I think Brooke Bean and Danny Freeze are really, and Meg McCormick, they all really just like hold everything down back there. So I think they will definitely lead us to not be scored on, and then everyone up top just scoring more goals as well.
So now that you're a senior, who do you think is going to lead the team next year when you're gone?
Probably Brittany Cooper. We also have other freshmen that came in, and Charlie Prevost, she's also good at playing up top. If we have this freshman Annie, who also, she's really good and can put the ball in the back of the net. And then Sophia, also, she's out this year, but she'll be back next year, and I know she will absolutely kill it after a year off.
Well, now we're going to go to another quick commercial break, but when we get back, our own Andy Weber will tell you what games to watch out for in the coming weeks.
Raise high. This isn't just our battle cry. It's our call, our challenge. Because when you are called to Washington, you are called to higher expectations, to a higher standard. We are called here to advance knowledge, to serve society, to change the world. This is the George Washington University, and what we make is history. So stand up, be bold, take risks, press on, push harder, raise high.
Welcome back to Unstoppable. Andy Weber joins us now at the desk. Andy, what's coming up in the world of colonial sports?
Sean, Casey, we got one busy schedule for the next month. So here are some of the highlights. September 25th, men's soccer takes on St. Francis Brooklyn up on the Verne. They then play Fordham the following Saturday. Volleyball will face Fordham on September 30th, followed by Rhode Island on October 1st. Women's soccer will host St. Bonaventure on October 2nd. They won't return home until October 13th when they play the VCU Rams. For a more detailed listing of all colonial competitions, log on to gwsports.com. And as always, check our Twitter for score updates. Guys?
Well, thanks, Andy. That's all we have for you today. And as always, remember to like GWTV on Facebook and follow the show on Twitter @GWTV Unstoppable. For all of the Unstoppable crew, we'll see you next time.